Hey everybody, it's Natalie from Power Moon Tarot. Welcome to your reading. Back by popular demand, we have a singles reading for you. And today's reading is called Giddy Up. So all for my singles, let's go ahead and get into it. For pile number 1, we have the cherries. For pile number 2, we have the apple. And for pile number 3, we have the bananas. So go ahead and take a deep breath, anchor into the energy, into the moment. What are you feeling right now? Do you feel like the cherries, the apple, or the banana? What is calling to you? And I'll go ahead and put the timestamps directly in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here, and let's begin. Okay. Pile number 1, welcome to your reading. You chose the cherries, and today's reading is called Giddy Up, a singles reading, baby. So let's go ahead and get into it. This was asked for in another video, so I am going to go ahead and do this reading for you guys. Let's go ahead and, I don't know why I just got something about a tractor or somebody having a dump truck or something about a tractor, you know, that's kind of funny. I think I just saw the chariot. Anyway, let's go ahead and see for my pile number 1s that chose the cherries. Let's go ahead and see what is coming their way. Spirit, can you show us what's coming their way? Singles message for the singles only. Singles message. Let's go ahead and see. No choppy waters. No choppy waters for pile number 1. Let's see. I feel like you guys have had enough drama. You're like, no more choppy waters. Okay. Let's see for pile number 1. For pile number 1. Let's see. Singles. All right. There we go. So wait till we get a clean cut. Pile number 1. And we've got the Knight of Cups on the bottom of the deck. That's nice. Somebody romantic, creative, inspiring, the type to bring flowers, the type to write poetry, the type to be, cheesy and romantic and in love instantly. Now, I don't know if you guys are looking for all of that, pile number 1, but we can definitely see. I feel this Knight of Cups too. Maybe you guys in pile number 1 are opening your mind up to a new way of handling relationships or opening up to a new way of looking at your relationships. Okay, perhaps some of you here are creative artists or you're into creative artists in general. Let's go ahead and see for my pile number 1 singles. Oh, wow. We have the 7th house of relating. Time for some smooching and some romances going on. We have Sagittarius here. We have, oh, my goodness, pile number 1, we have the 7th house came up twice from 2 different decks. And the 7th house in astrology, of course, has to do with our relationships, our dating life, our relationships, spouse, marriage partner, etc. Okay, and perhaps some of you here have Sagittarius in your chart, or you are having your eye on a Sagittarius, or Sagittarius may have their eye on you. And I actually feel that you guys have a relationship coming up soon here, pile number 1. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that? Sagittarius energy, enthusiastic, independent, happy-go-lucky. I feel like you guys want to meet somebody that's like this. Enthusiastic, independent, generous, happy-go-lucky, adventurous, perhaps likes to travel. Somebody who isn't boring, of course, and yeah, so I feel like you guys could be looking for somebody like that. And with these 2 7th house energies coming up here, and the funny thing about the 2 7th house energies is I feel this person is looking for a relationship and you're looking for a relationship, which, a lot of times we meet someone and the timing's wrong. The other person isn't looking for a relationship. But in this case, I feel, both you and this person could be looking for a relationship. Transformation is beautiful, as I talked about changing your mind and changing your ideas about what you're looking for in a partner, okay, and what you're seeking in a partner. We have communication here, transforming the way that you communicate with people or possible new partners in your life. And I feel some of you guys know that in order to see changes in your dating life or to see the right person come through your door, you're going to need to step it up communication wise. Now look at this Knight of Cups. I wouldn't say the Knight of Cups is probably the best communicator, okay? And you can see even here, it looks like there's something over the mouth, like there's a flower over the mouth of the Knight of Cups. I mean, we could make a lot of sexual innuendos about a flower on the lips of the Knight of Cups, but we won't go there. Pile number one, that's a different reading. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing perhaps you in the past have had a lot of feelings or a lot of emotions, or you've grown feelings for someone and you wanted to say something, but you didn't say it, or the timing, or you felt the timing was wrong, so you didn't say something, or you were holding back and you didn't really say how you feel. Perhaps you sometimes have a difficulty sharing how you're feeling. Pile number one, when you're getting to know someone, or perhaps you develop feelings for someone, but then you don't say anything and then you feel the chance passes you by. So I think for those of singles in my pile number one, you're realizing, hey, if I want to make something stick in my life, I need to communicate what I want, what I need, what I'm feeling. I need to work on my communication skills. And perhaps some of you are also looking for a partner that has really good communication skills to match the personal development that you've been doing. The frequency of communication supports our ability to exchange information in many different forms. It reminds us to run every piece of information, both incoming and outgoing, through our heart, the center of our truth, to stay in the flow with source and balanced exchange. Now, the seventh house, of course, definitely has to do with balance exchange if it's being done in the right way. And if it's not, if you don't feel that there's a balance exchange between you and another person, then there is a need to talk about that and communicate that. I'm also seeing somebody who could live in a city and then another person who lives in the country or lives outside of the city. Perhaps there's the airplane here, so perhaps there's a bit of a distance, but you know, especially if it's a relationship where, and when I say distance, I feel some of you are over long distance relationships. You're like, what? I don't want another long distance relationship, Natalie. When I say distance, I mean like somebody who lives outside of the city that you live. Like, you know, it does take some coordination. It does take some planning. And when there's a will, there's a way. Okay? And perhaps some of you do have your eye on somebody who has been at a distance, or perhaps in the past you've fallen in love with people who've been at a distance from you. But you know, as we know, communication is so important in those situations, and also seeing balanced energy exchanges. So I'm not in a power struggle with this person trying to see who's going to say something first. Like, the conversation flows naturally, it flows easily, it feels very like organic, and there's not a lot of, second guessing of what the other person is thinking or feeling. And I feel like that is what you guys are looking for in a relationship. And with these two seventh houses coming up, I do feel some of you are getting into a relationship or will be getting into a relationship soon. Wow. Here we have Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. So more Sagittarius energy, all right? Indulging in the impossible pleasure. And speaking of the flower on the lips, that's exactly what this picture is depicting. Somebody putting the flower on their lips. I'm not going to go further than that. I'm sure you can read into that on your own accord, pile number one. But yeah, I do feel like you guys want to be with somebody who puts your pleasure front and center, and somebody who like notices if you're, of course, most people want this. They want to be with a seasoned lover who knows how to do things, and somebody who knows how to get the job done, okay? And Somebody who isn't afraid to go there. You know what I'm saying, pile number one? Somebody where there's actually perhaps somebody that focuses on you a little bit more. Like somebody where the energy is more weighted towards you when it comes to the physical aspect of the relationship. And, you know, in this regard, I think it is clear when we're first intimate with someone and how that moment kind of starts off is kind of how the relationship is going to go. So if you guys do meet someone and you are getting down or making out or whatever, I would take the initiative to put yourself first, because I also feel this person is interested in pleasing you. Pile number one, indulging in the impossible pleasure. And for some of you here talking about impossible pleasure, it may be challenging or difficult at times for you guys to quote unquote get there. You know what I'm saying, pile number one? And perhaps that's where we need to have a lot of communication, and you need to say what it is that you like or what you're into or what makes sense for you. But I do feel you guys are relating to someone and you are talking and things are changing. Very cool. Ooh, we've got the Empress. Yeah, baby. Good for you. I hope you guys aren't looking to get pregnant, pile number one, because this Empress here is holding her belly, okay? And I also feel like it's about body confidence as well, too, and feeling confident in yourself and the growth that you've had as far as your own body confidence. We have Judgment here, okay, shining a light on what's important and what has value. We have the Eight of Pentacles. I do like this energy, okay, because I feel you guys have been working on yourselves. I feel you've been working hard on what it is that you want and what you need for the future. Okay, and I'm also getting with the Empress and Judgment that you don't want to make the same mistakes that you made in the past. And perhaps some of you have a crappy baby's daddy or a crappy ex. And I feel a lot of you have just been putting your energy into your day-to-day activities, into your work. But I also feel like you guys know that because you've been through hard times when it comes to relationships, self-worth, body image, I feel you guys know how much energy it takes to bring your confidence back and bring your energy back after you've gone, you know, after a person has been treated poorly or after a person hasn't been treated well. And so I feel you know, and pile number one, I feel you know just how much effort relationships take. And I feel in the past, some of you were waiting for somebody to recognize you or recognize you for the efforts that you are doing or appreciate you for what you were doing in your relationships. And I feel like that just wasn't always happening. And I feel it made a lot of you very sad, or it made you very sad, pile number one. And it would anyone, you know, but at the same time, I feel you guys still retain your romantic spirit. You're just a bit more realistic and disciplined about how you want to act and behave in a relationship, okay? And really working on yourself with the Eight of Pentacles. We have the Seven of Swords, okay? And, you know, here's where I feel things have to change with this Judgment card. Like I feel your guys' last relationship was a huge wake-up call, or your last situationship, or whatever you want to call it, was a huge wake-up call. And perhaps some of you got divorced with the Empress and Judgment, or perhaps some of you were dating the father of a child or something, but I feel your last connection was a huge wake-up call to you. And you're realizing just how unfair it is when you are putting in a lot of effort into a connection, or you're really trying hard to build a connection, but the other person is constantly in and out the door, and the other person doesn't seem to have made any commitment, and the other person is, you know, not really sure about the relationship. And that's where communication really is important, right? Because with the Judgment card, we can allow things to build up and build up and build up and hold on to that dream and hold on to, that idealized, version of what we want a romance to be, while we let our frustrations build up and build up and build up. And, Eight of Pentacles-ing it, saying, I'm okay, it's fine, it's fine. But when you start tallying up the score and you start really looking at who's putting in the effort in the relationship, who's actually trying to do something on a day-to-day basis, and you realize it's me, not this other person. I feel you guys have been through that before, pile number one. And, part of that is when we put so much into a relationship, or we put so much into love, devotion, care, into what we're creating, and we love it so much, it's very hard to admit that the other person is not really showing up in a committed way, okay? And I feel like you guys are saying, look, if you can't show up like an adult and communicate with me like an adult, and you can't tell me exactly what's on your mind and communicate like an adult, then I don't really have anything for you. And I love that, because that feels like a very realistic and appropriate boundary as an adult to have in a relationship. And I feel like, some of you could have been with hot and cold people who are neither here nor there, people who say different things. At one point they want to be with you, at another point they don't want to be with you. I feel you're just sick of this energy. You're looking for equality. And in fact, you're actually looking to be treated like an empress, or be treated like somebody who's actually putting your needs first, okay? And I feel you guys can definitely have that, but I also feel you guys are working on picking better quality partners who know how to communicate, and also making sure that you're communicating what it is that you need. We have the 10 of Swords here. Okay, so here's what I feel. I feel you guys would rather be single. You'd rather be doing life on your own, as hard as it is, to be on your own, or take care of a kid on your own, or to live your life without, there is advantages in society for people that are partnered up, but I also feel there's tax advantages, there's dual incomes, that is if you have a responsible, mature partner. And I feel you guys see those advantages with the Eight of Pentacles, but I also feel like you guys are saying the reality is, if this person doesn't know how to communicate, and this person doesn't know how to make their intentions clear and known, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to, I'm really not going to deal with that anymore, okay? And I feel like you guys are sick of dealing with two-faced people, pile number one, okay? And people who don't really know what they want, and people who are just time wasting at the end of the day, okay? And I feel like you guys learned a lot from your last relationship, or last couple of relationships, or, talking situations. And I feel like you're just like, yeah, if that person doesn't know how to talk like an adult, or behave like an adult, or, communicate like an adult, then I'm sorry. I'm not going to just wait around, and I'm not going to do all the work, because the Eight of Pentacles can be, with the 7th house here, about you getting yourself into extraordinarily complicated situations with someone where you're doing all the work, or the heavy lifting, and the communicating in the relationship. And I just don't see that happening anymore. And I feel like if there are people like that around you, you're definitely going to shut them down. And I feel like with this Empress and Judgment card, you may shut them down fairly early on if you're not seeing progression and you're not seeing communication, okay? And and you're not sure where someone stands. And so I think that's good, pile number one. And I do think there is a strong opportunity for you guys to get into a relationship, and for you know, things to be different. With Judgment, things can't stay the same anymore. And so I feel with Judgment and the Empress, you guys are really taking these changes in your life very seriously. Okay, so pile number one, I am totally supportive of that. And I do feel that if somebody is not really on the same page, I feel like you're going to call it out rather quickly. And that gets to the bottom of things pretty quickly, you know, and some people that you've dealt with in the past, or exes or whoever, may not appreciate the new pile number one for the way that you're being or acting or whatever. But I also, you know, I also just feel like you guys are like, I'm sick of telling myself that things are going to change when they're not changing. Okay. So I hear you on that, and I'm with you on that. And I think in order to make room for a healthy, good relationship in your life, there are these changes that need to be made. And with the Ten of Swords and Seven of Swords, you need to be really honest with yourself. Pile number one, okay? Is this level of communication appropriate? Do I feel like I'm being lied to? Do I feel like this person is just giving me the runaround? Like, you know, I feel there's a lot of self-honesty that needs to kind of be there, you know, in order to hold people accountable. And so I feel you guys are developing that. Very good for you, pile number one. Let's see here. Let's see. I always like to do this at the end of my readings. What is the number one thing pile number one should be focused on right now? What is the number one thing pile number one should be focused on right now? Okay, my loves. Life purpose. Yes. Your life purpose. Okay. And you know, your life purpose is really all encompassing, isn't it? For some people, their life purpose is they want to be a mother, they want to be a father, they want to have a family, they want to, you know, start a business. They have some really important, you know, projects and goals that they're trying to reach. Okay. And, you know, your life purpose isn't to sit around and wait for some jack off to, you know, get back to you or whatever, you know, pile number one. And I think you guys know that. And perhaps some of you are also thinking about your romantic future and how that, you know, dovetails into your overall life purpose. Okay. But sometimes we can be having like a lot of relationship issues and thinking about a lot of relationship problems or things that we want to fix, but our mind needs to be like on our work, you know, or working on ourselves so that we can have better, healthier relationships. Okay. But life purpose is all encompassing, and that's the number one thing you should be focused on right now, pile number one. Okay. So that is what I am getting for you, my loves, in pile number one. I hope you enjoyed that reading, and I'd love to hear any thoughts, comments, or feedback that you have on that pile number one. Take care. Let's move on to pile number two. Okay. Pile number two, welcome to your reading. You chose the apple, and today's reading is called Giddy Up, singles reading, okay? And this was requested by somebody. So we are going to go ahead and get into it for my pile number twos. Let's do it, baby. All right. Do you guys like Young Gravy? Do you know who that is as a recording artist? I think he's so funny. Anyway, I like his music. I think he's funny. I love how he's like totally into MILFs. Like, I mean, hopefully some weird thing doesn't come out about him about how he's some creepy weirdo loser. But you guys heard the news about Lizzo, I'm sure. But anyway, pile number two. Let's go ahead and get into your reading. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place for pile number two. Let's find out about your love life. What is coming up for pile number two regarding their love life, please? Can you show me? Singles for pile number two. What do they need to know? What does singles, okay, there we go. What does singles for pile number two need to know? There we go. Six of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck. I like it. The Six of Pentacles, it feels very fortunate. It feels very balanced. It feels very organic. It feels very strong and like a foundation can be developed, okay? So I like that energy to start with. And perhaps that's what you guys are shooting towards, or you're reaching towards that type of security. Perhaps some of you are working towards financial security, monetary security on top of this. Let's see what else. Ooh, we have the 10th house of reputation. So this has to do with career, but it also has to do with how we're seen in the world, our identity in the world. You know, the 10th house and the first house in our astrology charts are really those key areas where we really show off who we are, okay? And the 10th house is also a house of leaderships. The 10th house is a kingmaker type of a house, okay? Perhaps some of you here are looking for someone who has their shit together financially, or you're looking for a freaky daddy with some money in his pocket. I don't know. Pile number 2, I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just continuing on. A freaky daddy with money in his pocket, okay? Here we have Pluto and transformation in the 10th house. Some of you are really going through a massive change in your life right now. I don't know that you have had a whole lot of time to think about relationships at this point, because perhaps some of you have been going through a career change, or you've been going through a job loss, or you're wanting to quit your job or leave your job, or you've just started a new job. Like, these types of changes can be very stressful, and obviously a lot of attention may be going to your 10th house right now. Perhaps some of you like somebody at your work, but it's a forbidden type of a thing. Let's see what else we have here. We have the 3rd house and communication. Interesting, because communication did come up in our prior reading as well, just the importance of communicating. And not just one-dimensional communication where people talk at you, but actual give and take. And perhaps some of you have been in a work environment where people just talk at you and it's very irritating, and I feel, you know, it's not very like socially responsible to have those kind, you know, when people are like that and they just talk your ear off and they don't actually participate in give and take. But anyway, pile number 2, we have we have air here, air energy. And it's funny because I was going to mention Gemini at the beginning of the reading when I was kind of all over the place there. And so perhaps some of you here are coming through with that Gemini energy, heavy in your chart, and perhaps some of you, you know, and here's the thing, like if you've met people through your work before, perhaps you're not wanting to meet people that way anymore. I mean, it can cause a really big ruckus when we meet people through our work. I've only done it once in my life. I wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, we have the 3rd house of communication, and we have air here. Okay, so more emphasis on the air signs or communication in general, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Also an emphasis on quirky, fun, social energy. The 3rd house in astrology is very social. It's an air house. It has to do with the pleasures in life and the things we want to do. And it has to do with our self-effort, like really putting ourselves out there, really putting the communication out there. Okay, and yeah, so let's see what else here. I feel some of you may have been on a really bad date recently where all the person did was talk about their job or how great they are, and all they did is talk like one way towards you and didn't engage you in a proper conversation. And here's what I think, pile number 2. I feel like what you guys are saying with the Six of Pentacles, yes, I want to meet somebody who is, you know, grounded and successful and sincere and motivated in what they're doing in life and has a solid foundation to build on. But I'm not interested in meeting somebody who's incredibly controlling, like somebody who's very vain, someone who's constantly power hungry, like somebody who won't stop talking about themselves, you know, like that's a very unattractive energy, okay? And Yeah, so anyway, we have perception here. So interesting. And maybe some of you here are like, well, I don't want to come off like that either, Natalie. Like, I don't want to come off like all I do is care about money and my career. And some of you here could actually be experiencing a level up in your work, or you could be moving up in what you're doing. But perhaps some of you are like, well, I don't want to come off as being power hungry, being vain, only into what I'm into and my interests and talking at people. And a lot of this has to do with perception, okay? And also the number 35 is interesting here because we have card 28, air, card 41, third house communication, and 35, perception. So the way people see you when you're 28 to 35 to 41 is very different, right? You're going to expect that a 28-year-old is at a much different place in life than, for instance, a 35-year-old or a 41-year-old, okay? And yeah. And so that's just interesting. Perhaps you were talking to someone, or perhaps some of you will meet someone or talk to someone where there's a bit of an age difference there. Could be up to a 7-year age difference, 6 to 7 year age difference. But, we're at different places in life, depending on where our age is. But it really is an unattractive quality to like go out with someone and spend the whole time talking about, you know what I mean? It's a very unattractive quality. And I feel like you guys don't really want to, you don't really want to put up with that either. So here's the perception card here. And this, like I said, has to do with your perception of how people see you, and perhaps maybe insecurities that you have around that pile number 2. Maybe some of you are like, well, I wish I was farther in life. I wish I had more built up for myself. I feel like I'm falling behind. And perhaps some of you also have been very successful very early on. And you're like, people are afraid of me because of that, or intimidated because I, do really well for myself. And, I've been in that position too, pile number 2. So I know how that is. But anyway, it's about perception, how we perceive ourselves and how others are perceiving us in that two-way mirror. And I feel like there may be some misunderstandings that have possibly gone on communication-wise, okay? So we want to work on those things, but we see perception. The frequency of perception supports our natural curiosity. Yeah, the third house, air, our natural curiosity to want to learn, to get to know other people, to engage them in conversation, right? Perception supports our natural curiosity, moving us beyond our comfort zone. Yeah, and I feel that's something you guys are going to need to do. Now, perhaps with Pluto here, pile number 2, you're very private about your life, or you don't want everyone knowing everything about you, okay? And it can be hard to communicate and open up, but the first thing we want to know about dating and getting to know new people is that we want to be curious about them, and if somebody is so closed off or so into themselves or so closed off that you can't really penetrate that at all, then it's going to be hard. And you in that case, you may feel like I'm going in circles, like I'm going in circles with things and I feel like I'm not getting somewhere. But that's when we have to really communicate, air, and we really have to be like, in order to date, we need to be interested in other people, right? And it's so funny because on TikTok, there was a thing where this girl was like, I'm going on my 800th date or whatever. She's putting all her makeup into her purse and she goes, what's your name? How many siblings do you have? Whatever, And like, she's just sick of getting to know people or getting to talk to people. But anyway, we have to have some of that natural curiosity in order to kind of get out there in the world. But it says the frequency of perception supports our natural curiosity, moving us beyond our comfort zone to find the edges of what we perceive as real and to take a good, hard, deep look at it. So pile number 2, this I feel is also about your perceptions and how you're viewing other people. You know, like if you think, oh, that person doesn't really want to get to know me, or they're closed off, or, you know, all this person cares about is the superficial things, or so what Spirit is asking you right now is to really try to get out of your comfort zone a little bit here, to get curious about other people, to allow people to be curious about you, and to take a good, hard, deep look at what you perceive, okay? And I also feel some of you needing to take a good hard look at what you're looking for, because perhaps some of you have some very, you know, like strict guidelines on what you're looking for or what a person needs to have. And I'm not telling you you need to, like, you know, get rid of that or whatever, but, or perhaps you were talking to people that had very strict guidelines, but the perception is what we need to work on, I feel, okay? And we only really get changes in that by talking to a lot of people or getting to know a lot of different people. And sometimes for people who are very busy working on career stuff, or very private people, Pluto, 10th house, they may not be that into sharing everything, okay? So I just want to talk about that a little bit, pile number 2, because perhaps there's some things in your dating life that you also need to take a good hard look at in order to make yourself available to what's out there, okay? And maybe you've been on the receiving end of being perceived incorrectly as well, okay? We have secrets and discoveries here, and she's reading a book, okay? And she's learning things. We have secrets and discoveries, Sun in Taurus, okay? So perhaps some of you also have Taurus going on in your chart. Tauruses can be very stubborn, you know, like I only want this thing, or I only like that thing. I also feel some of you could be talking to a new person, but you find out something about their work, or you find out, perhaps some of you find out someone was lying to you about what they do for a living or their work. And a lot of times people will do that because of insecurity, okay? And Pluto often talks about having a major reckoning with something, coming clean on something, taboos, working with extremes, okay? So people who take what they do in the world or how they're seen in the world to a major extreme, or people who are wanting to change their identity and how they look towards other people. And I feel, pile number 2, you may be very good at finding out other people's secrets, or you may be like, you know, not only are you, you know, I'll just pick a name, you know, not only are you Mary who works in advertising, but you're also like a sleuthy detective who can find anything out about someone before a first date, like where they work, everything about their life, okay? But when we do that, sometimes it skews our perception of somebody a little bit, okay? But I also feel some of you could be getting some information about somebody you're dating or talking to that you may not appreciate that much, or that you don't like that much. Now, you know, here's the thing about dating. It's a numbers game, okay? So if you run into a situation like that and you're like, oh man, you know, I really wanted, you know, so-and-so to be better than that, or I thought they were going to be this or that way instead of that way. I would say just keep an open mind and be adaptable and be flexible. Not that you have to change your standards, but just that you should kind of, you know, if Pluto can sometimes just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And this is where we have to use good judgment, air, okay? And I feel maybe sometimes you guys get a little confused, like, should I give this person a chance or not, okay? Well, here's the thing. If you're just going out with someone, you're not marrying them. You know, what's the worst that can happen? I know everybody's had bad dates before and things like that, but you guys are like, hell, Natalie, you could write my dating life in a book and it would keep someone entertained for a year. Yeah, you know, I see that. Pile number 2. I really, really do. But it helps to have a sense of humor, doesn't it? So we have here the Chariot, okay, very active. I like that. The Queen of Wands, very sexy and outgoing type of energy. We have the Star card. I actually like these energies, okay? And, you know, sometimes we have to put our best foot forward, but we feel like instead of going on a date, we feel like, you know, sleeping all night, or you know, taking a bath, or relaxing in our jammies. You know, we don't really feel like going out. So perhaps some of you here, it's like, no, I know I need to put myself out there. I know I need to make myself available. And but you know, if at the end of the date you're like, well, damn, I wish I would have just stayed home and read my book or taken a bath. Hey, you know, like we got to try things in life, and that's cool. Okay, we have Judgment here. That's interesting because Judgment came up in the prior pile. And we have Death. Okay, we have 4 major arcana cards here, plus the Queen of Wands. So you guys are dealing with a lot of energy, okay? You're dealing with the old ways that you used to do things. And I honestly feel some of you were like, you know, F this. I'm giving up. Like, I don't even care anymore. And perhaps you put a lot of your energy into your work. But I also feel you guys may run into somebody, okay? I really do. I see perhaps some of you going out with a Leo. We also have the Chariot here, so that could be Cancer. I'm seeing Cancer, Leo, and Scorpio here, okay? And yeah, I actually feel like you go out with somebody and they actually really impress you. Like they really have their shit together, or they really plan a nice date, or they're very, they want to go do something fun or active, which, you know, I would definitely recommend that for you right now. Pile number 2 is going on a date to do something fun and active, because I kind of feel that you know you need to put yourself back out there, or you know you need to come out of the house in order to be seen, okay? But I also am getting a little bit of lethargic energy when it comes to your dating life. And, you know, with Judgment and Death, I do feel you guys have been afraid of people's judgment, or perhaps afraid of the way that people perceive you. Or perhaps some of you have a very tough past when it comes to your dating life. And I get it, you know, I really, really get it. But, you know, we can only stay in that dead zone for so long until, and here's, you know, the Star card is all about cleansing. And I did talk about clearing and cleansing with Pluto and detoxing. You know, and clearing and cleansing the way that you're looking at your dating life. And things may have been, you know, kind of dead, or not really that eventful with the Death card here. But I also feel like there is a transformation happening. There is a change happening. And I do feel like there's a cleanse on a deep level that you're going through. And I feel like you don't really want the past kind of hanging on to you anymore, okay? You're trying to spread your wings and fly and cleanse and detox from the past, okay? And sometimes we can do that work forever. You know, there's always more cleansing, there's always more detoxing, there's always more facial masks and, you know, whatever that we can do. But sometimes we just have to say, okay, that's enough. You know, I've been introspective, I've been letting go, I've been doing my rituals. Perhaps some of you have been doing your rituals, you have been introspective, you have been letting go, you have been working on your healing. And yeah, I do feel like you, and perhaps some of you are like, well, I'm worried sometimes about how I come off. Like, do I come off as I'm being too serious? Do I come off as somebody who like hasn't let go of the past? Do I come off as somebody who doesn't like to have fun? Do I come off as somebody who is closed off? And perhaps you guys are very aware of how other people perceive you. And I also feel some of you privately have a lot going on in your life beyond just your dating life, okay? And yeah, I do feel there's a lot of other stuff that you guys, but I feel like you're at the end of a cycle. If it had to do with family stuff, work stuff, etc., I feel you are at the end of a cycle right now, pile number 2. But it doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It doesn't mean that you can't put yourself out there a little bit. And I do feel like you've been working on, you know, refreshing and cleansing and letting go and changing. And it's beautiful progress, I feel, pile number 2, okay? And I do feel like you could meet an sexy, exciting stranger, okay? But we just have to make sure that we're not judging each other before we really know each other. And I do feel like this person, you know, I feel like they want to go do fun stuff. I'm seeing the letter P. I'm seeing the initials OC. I'm also seeing VOI or VOE. This could be your initials, their initials. I'm seeing the number 37. Perhaps someone is 37 years old, or that's in someone's phone number or apartment number. Okay. I'm also seeing 8 and 5 here. All right. But I do feel like, you know, the Chariot is this person making plans with you. And, you know, I feel your attitude is pretty good about it. I feel like you're like, well, okay, I'm going to give this shit a try. But I also feel that inside you're still a little bit scared or a little bit hesitant, but you're not giving any signs of that, I feel, to this person, pile number 2. If you're worried about how this person is going to perceive you, I feel you're coming off as very confident, strong, proud, beautiful. You're coming off as very, you know, spicy as well, and very sure of yourself, okay? And I feel like it attracts this person to you. It makes them want to ask you out. And I am getting Cancer Leo energy. Perhaps you have that heavy in their chart, or they do. But I do feel like there's something that inspires this person about you, and they find you very inspiring. And I do think that they're very interested in you, and they feel very called to you or very magnetized towards you. Okay. And yeah, and I do feel like this person is confident too, but I also feel like they have deep emotions and, you know, somewhat of a complicated past as well. But I also feel like this person is motivated to meet you and to talk to you. Okay, pile number 2. So I am getting that energy for you, my dears. And I do think there's a high probability of you guys meeting someone, talking to someone, going out with someone here. I feel there's actually an opportunity for you guys to go out with multiple people. And I honestly feel like you may go out with somebody that rubs you the wrong way, or you maybe just went out with somebody that rubbed you the wrong way, but put that experience behind you and get ready for something new is what I feel. Pile number 2, okay? So that is the energy that I am getting for you, my loves. I am going to get one last card for you guys here and ask, what is the number 1 thing that you should be focused on right now, okay? What is the number 1 thing that pile number 2 should be focused on right now? What is the number 1 thing? Pile number 2. Let's see. What is the number 1 thing? Okay. Clarity. Yes, I love that. Perception is what I'm seeing. Real communication, talking, sharing, you know, like actually getting clarity on a particular situation or a particular person. And I feel like some of you are asking, is this person for real? I think they are for real. I do. But if you have recently had a crappy experience, then I would just put that behind you, because I do feel like this person is for real. Okay. So thank you so much, pile number 2. That is what I am getting for you, my loves. And I wish you all the best. Let's move on to pile number 3. Okay. Get the deck ready. Get us ready. All right. Let's do it. Pile number 3, welcome to your reading. You chose the bananas, and today's reading is called Giddy Up Singles Reading. Let's do it, my loves. We are going to get into it, and this video was asked for by a person on my last, I think it was my last reading. They asked me to do a singles reading. Let's get it. Pile number 3. Let's get it for my pile number 3s, for my singles. I feel like it's gotten warmer in here, pile number 3. It's getting hot in here. I won't finish the song. Anyway, let's go ahead and see for my pile number 3s. Let's see. Spirit, can you show me what does pile number 3 need to know when it comes to their dating life? What's coming up? Okay. And we have the 10 of Skulls, which is the 10 of Pentacles. I feel like some of you have been waiting a long time for a quality person to come into your life that actually makes sense for you. And I also feel like you guys aren't really going to settle either for just whatever, because you are very certain of what it is that you're looking for. Let's see here. We have the 8th house in intimacy, trust, intimacy, connection. We have Neptune, okay? Neptune in the 8th house, very interesting. Imagination, memories, dreams. I feel some of you here, you thought that perhaps you were going to end up with someone from your past, but you were forced to let go of that dream. And I feel some of you have been waiting for the next thing here. We have transits and climate. Things changed, okay? And I also feel some of you here could be dealing with some exhaustion or health issues, perhaps. And I feel like some of you are saying, I want love. I just don't know if this is the right time, because I don't feel like I'm at my best right now. And I am waiting for quality. I am waiting for the real thing. And I feel like you're waiting for something inspiring to like sweep you off your feet, pile number 3, but you're also a realist. And perhaps in the past, you've let your vision get clouded before. But I also feel some of you here could be just exhausted from some of the emotional pain, okay? And having to let go of a dream that you've always had. And perhaps that has to do with a particular goal that you've had. Like, I want to be married by this date. I'm also seeing the name Eric here. I'm seeing EYZ. For letters, EYZ, someone may have that in their name, or yeah, EYZ, or just the letter E. But I feel like you guys have been patient, dedicated, loyal, but I just feel lately perhaps you haven't been feeling physically that well, or you just haven't really been in the mood, or things just haven't been I mean, I feel some of you could really use some action, some sexual, action, pile number 3 with the 8th house and Neptune. And, but also I feel like you might be saying, it may not be the right time right now either, or I feel like something is changing. I also feel like some of you are still letting go of pain and hurt from the past, okay? From something that didn't work out in the past. And that's okay. Like, we have to take our time with these things, right? Pile number 3, like, we can't rush ourselves. And, sometimes with Neptune in the 8th house, we don't want to let go though, or we have a hard time like admitting the truth about something to ourselves. Like, I need to let this go. And perhaps some of you here are familiar with astrology and you have been going through some challenging transits, perhaps Neptune transit, 8th house transits, but it's like, man, you know, like I'm a good girl or I'm a good guy, or, you know, I don't know what you identify as, pile number 3, or I'm a good, you know, if you're not gender, you know, if you don't want to identify with a certain gender, like I'm a good person, like, you know, I deserve a quality partner in my life and I'm not going to just settle for crap. But I also feel some of you, like I said, you could have had something that you really thought was going to work out in a particular way, but it worked out differently than what you thought. Okay. And that's very upsetting. Also, I feel some of you could have been with somebody that betrayed you or cheated on you or lied behind your back. Okay. And I think some of you here are due for like a very romantic, intense love affair and an exchange of fluids. You know what I'm saying? Pile number 3. But I also think that, you know, when it comes to bonding with other people, I also feel you guys take it pretty seriously too. So it can't just be anybody, because I also feel some of you, when you connect with people sexually, energetically, it has a really big impact on you. Okay. And maybe you know that about yourself, or maybe you don't know that about yourself. But some of you here, I feel, are very psychically sensitive to energy. And when you're sexually with someone, it really opens up energy centers for you. And I feel that intensity is a lot, you know? And perhaps some of you have walked away from sexual encounters with people and you haven't felt well. You felt off energetically, okay? So I just want to acknowledge all of that as well too. We have a full moon. Wow, look at the intensity building, okay? And you know, it's interesting with Neptune because we have Neptune and a full moon. Wow, that is extremely emotional. If we had a moon-Neptune conjunction in the 8th house, wow, we are really holding on. We are really bleeding for the thing that we love, you know, in that type of a situation. It's very romantic. It's very dreamy. It's very creative. But with Neptune, we have, you know, meditation, spirituality, universal love, memories with Neptune, flooding us, flooding our imagination with memories of things. But also with Neptune, we can talk about escaping into fantasies that are not healthy for us, okay? And perhaps that's something that you guys have been made uncomfortably aware of, is that, you know, sometimes I have escaped into these fantasies, and but I also feel at times very confused, very emotional. And I honestly feel here some of you are still processing the emotional impact of something major that happened to you, whether that's a breakup, etc. And perhaps some of you are saying, you know, I don't know, like I'm watching this singles reading, but I don't know if I'm really ready for that yet, because, you know, Moon, Neptune in the 8th house, it's very vulnerable, very emotionally vulnerable, pile number 3. And we really have to trust someone with this 8th house and intimacy. We really have to trust someone to be able to go there, okay? And yeah, perhaps some of you have also been with people in the past that have been obsessed with you, or had an unhealthy obsession towards you, or an unhealthy romantic attraction towards you. And I feel some of you in pile number 3, you could be like sirens, you know, where you're calling that, not that you call, you know, not, we don't have control over everything that happens to us, but like, I feel there is a magnetic energy that you guys project that's like very hypnotic. And it's very like emotional and deep, but it's also very sexual. And, you know, perhaps some of you have been wanting to go deep like this with someone, because it's very erotic, pile number 3. But at the same time, you know, it takes an awful lot of trust, faith, connection, you know, all of those energies to really let go like that, okay? Very interesting energy. We have Gaia here. Beautiful. Earth Mother vibes. Very beautiful. I feel you guys are very sexually healing, pile number 3, to people when you give your energy to them. But at the same time, I don't know that it's always that good for you, you know? And I mean, especially for people that are very emotionally intense or very, emotionally open, empathic people, intuitive people. Sometimes after a sexual encounter, you have to go like sit on the grass and connect your root chakra to the ground to kind of absorb some of those energies. I know I've had to do that before in my past. Anyway, pile number 3, I'm just letting you know, okay? But the frequency of Gaia reminds us that we are infinitely connected to one another, just as we are to the Great Mother and to the universe that birthed us all, okay? And that kind of like, respect for women, or respect for Mother Earth, or respect for spirituality, or for, where you're coming from on that level, I feel also needs to be there, pile number 3. And just this whole sense that we are so connected to one another, and how hard it can be to break that bond energetically, and perhaps some of you are going to be, the 8th house is also where we can do some rituals and things like that. Perhaps some of you are going to be doing some clearing rituals, some cleansing rituals. Perhaps water is very good for you guys as far as cleansing, okay? But definitely emotions are heightened, very intense. Like, I do think you guys, if you wanted to be in a very intense emotional connection where things are incredibly like vulnerable and scary, perhaps in a good way, perhaps in a bad way, however you want to interpret that, pile number 3, I do think you have the ability, especially with this transits, I do think you have the ability to get into something like that if you want to. But my question to you is, do you want to, And maybe your relationships do have a habit of going down these very deep paths, or these very, spiritual, compassionate, empathic paths, like meeting of the souls, like, maybe there's a lot of fantasy involved in it, all this type of thing, or you're like the muse or the fantasy figure for someone else. Like, there's a lot of different elements happening here, pile number 3. So, I also understand if you don't want to take all that on energetically, right? But there's also this question of, can I be involved with someone in a relationship and not have it turn into this huge production, And perhaps maybe some of you are trying to work on that with grounded spirituality. Perhaps some of you here with this Gaia card and the full moon, you're needing to change your diet, or you're going plant-based, or you're really needing to think about what you put in your body, because you are extremely energetically sensitive right now, pile number 3. And what you put in your body matters, whether that's, a partner or a bagel, whatever you put in your body, I do feel it is very energetically sensitive. So you do need to be careful. And, it just reminds me of a friend of mine who asked me, like, hey, do you think I could ever, like go work at a brothel? Because she is exploring different ways for making income. And she's very energetically sensitive, very empathic, very moon to the nth degree. But I was like, girl, as much as she's like open-minded sexually, I was like, girl, I don't know, because you're very energetically sensitive. And I don't know if you want that much energy running through you, So, I mean, I don't know why I'm bringing up that story, pile number 3, but I'm just saying, like, some of us are very energetically sensitive. We have to be careful of what we eat and ingest and what levers we take on in our life. And, for you guys, it may be like I'm taking on a lever. And I do feel like you guys are like that wolf, kind of energy, like that she wolf type of energy. And, or, you know, if you're a male watching this, you just have that wolf energy type of going on. So I feel some of you here could also be loners, or you also may be okay with solitude at times as well and need that to decompress. But I also feel if you are going to be with someone, they're going to need to understand these things about you and be able to work with you on this. Because if they can't, I don't, or they won't, or they can't understand this, then, you know, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel you've been through both sides of the equation. Pile number 3, okay? Ooh, we have here Venus in Taurus. I love that. That's so grounded. And I love that with this Gaia energy here. And, you know, it almost like lifts me out of a depression in a way. You know, Moon Neptune in the 8th house can feel kind of depressing at times. Also, Moon Neptune in the 8th house could say, you know, needing alcohol or some kind of thing, drugs, whatever, in order to open up sexually. And sometimes we can find ourselves getting into those patterns. But pile number 3, I'm not saying all this to depress you and make you think, God, am I ever going to be able to be with anyone again? Definitely not pile number 3, because I'm not trying to make you, you know, feel that way, or, you know, slip into a geez, Natalie, I'm not ever going to be with anyone. No, I think you will. And I think it is about embracing grounded spirituality. It is about embracing your health. It is, and I love Venus in Taurus for that, because it is like a flower blooming in the springtime. And it's like we're revitalized again. We feel young and nubile again. We feel open energetically, but we also feel grounded and sensual. You know, Venus in Taurus is very sensual and very goddess energy. And so I do feel you guys have that within you to bring that out and to celebrate that and to, you know, be in union with that. I also feel that for you guys may come from self-love as well, and not just, you know, going to a self-help class, but also, you know, self-stimulation, quote unquote, pile number 3. And yeah, this whole idea of being grounded in your energy. And here's the thing, when you're grounded in your energy and you're like a flower in the springtime and you're feeling very comfortable with yourself, and you know, you're feeling very like settled and grounded, I feel you guys could have a very lovely sex life and a very lovely romantic life as well too. But perhaps there's some emotional things that you feel, hey, I need to deal with these, you know? And that's good, pile number 3. Like, we have to meet ourselves where we're at in a very practical way. You know, and we have here, oh, the Empress. I love it. The Empress came up in pile number 1. So obviously there is a theme of self-love. There is a theme of healing. We have here the Tower. Oh, and this Empress actually looks a little bit sad and forlorn in this deck. And, you know, this is a vampire deck anyway, but let's see what else we have. We have, I mean, so fitting for the Moon Neptune, right? The Moon Neptune, the full moon with Neptune, right? That's so vampiric. And perhaps you guys are like, yeah, Natalie, I've been with a lot of energy vampires, you know, I know what that's like. And, you know, the Empress, of course, we wouldn't want to treat the Empress like that. I mean, it's blasphemy to treat the Empress in that way. We have the 7 of Skulls here, okay? 7 of Pentacles, waiting on something. As John Mayer would say, waiting on the world to change. I think John Mayer is actually a creep, if you guys know who that is. But anyway, we have the 7 of Knives, 7 of Swords, and 7 of Pentacles. The 7s in the tarot have to do with desire and what we desire and what we want. And, you know, whether we want to go for something or not, you know. And I feel you guys have had a very, you know, with the Tower, there's been dramatics, there's been, perhaps some of you here have been with abusive people in the past, but there's definitely been, you know, people I feel like that abandoned you, left you, and I mean, I feel, but why, let's not focus so much, you know, pile number 3, let's talk about how you're changing, you know, let's talk about how you're growing. And I know like there's been moments and there's been sadness and there's been like, you know, those moments of you waiting to see what was going to happen. And I don't blame you, you know, pile number 3, for if you were waiting to see what someone was going to say or someone was going to do, and you were in a long-term relationship with someone or a marriage or something like that, you know, a lot of us, when we get into those situations or you're living with someone, those are more serious situations, and we're not just going to be like, fuck it, you know, most of the time and walk out the door. So I don't blame you guys for wanting answers or wanting to stick it out and see if something could be adjusted or changed. But I also feel somebody just could have thrown something in the trash that they had with you, okay? And I feel like it makes you real hesitant to believe what other people are telling you. I feel it also makes you real hesitant to kind of like take action, okay? And perhaps some of you were with people in the past who had very bad tempers, or who were very impulsive, this type of behavior. And like, who would mistreat the Empress? Like, what? That's a huge foul in the game of life. You know what I'm saying? We have the 10 of Grails here, which is the 10 of Cups. And that is so amazing, because here I see you guys I know you aren't going to do this, pile number 3. Maybe you did it in the past. I don't think you're going to do it again. But, you know, the worst thing would be because you're lonely, or because you still care, which is fine if you still care about someone, but because you're lonely, or it's hard to resist someone, or they are very sexy, you go back for a quickie with them, or you go back for a quick one and done with them, and then you're not hearing from them. You don't know what's going on. It just confuses you further. You know, there's an emptiness that lingers after that just feels like it's opened up a wound, or a wound that's opened again, okay? And so that's why I'm saying I feel you guys need to be very, I don't need to do anything, pile number 3, but I think you need to be very observant of how you feel energetically and how your health feels energetically after being with someone. And if you haven't been with someone for a while, go back and think about that. And like, think about, did I feel respected? Did I feel satisfied? Did I feel like, you know, like I was in a pleasure vortex? Or did I feel like all this person cared about was their own needs? And then, you know, I never got off, or I never, you know, whatever happened, pile number 3, whatever it is that happened. But I do feel like you guys, it's okay if you waited or you were wondering about a situation, but I also feel like your path to pleasure, which is something I'm going to mention to you guys that I haven't mentioned to other people in any debt or any, you know, pile yet, is you have a path to pleasure. And I feel it has to do with your emotional connection to someone and how comfortable you feel with someone emotionally, and your ability to like really let go, or your ability to really like release in those moments, okay? And yeah, so I do feel with the 10 of Grails is the 10 of Cups, and she looks like she's just fed, and she's got some, she looks like she's a vampire queen, and she's just had a dinner, and that dinner is sitting really well with her, okay? So I think you guys have the ability to do that. And if somebody in your life isn't giving you that to you, or you've just been running into a brick wall, then give it to yourself. You know what I'm saying, pile number 3? Because I feel that that's good as well, you know? But the Empress isn't there to just have a one and done, you know, like rub you raw and then leave type of experience. The Empress is there to really feel satisfied and really feel the pleasure that's due to her. And I do feel like that's possible for you, pile number 3, but you can't make any compromises on what it is that you want, okay? I feel like you've compromised enough. Now, that was a little bit different than the message I gave to pile number 2, and I feel you are at that point, 10 of Pentacles, where you're like, I'm not compromising anymore, you know, unless that person, you know, the problem for you guys is I feel you can't just have one and done, and maybe you can, I don't know, who am I, right, to say, but one and done sexual encounters may not be what, you know, really feels good to you. You know, with this 10 of Cups, I do feel there has to be some emotional aspect, pile number 3, okay? And, you know, I wouldn't, if there's someone that you call when you're lonely sometimes, but then you notice you feel like crap, or you feel empty, or you feel even more confused than before, or whatever, then I would stay away from that for right now, okay? And sometimes we need to pull back from that energy because we need to do some self-healing, some spiritual rituals, you know, anything that we need to do to make us feel better energetically and physically. What's so weird, it just felt like somebody walked into my house, pile number 3, but I know that isn't true. Oof, pile number 3. Okay, I don't like unexpected visitors, pile number 3. I'm guessing you don't either. I don't know why, obviously there's no one in here. My dog would be going crazy, but it was just an energetic feeling. And perhaps some of you haven't had the best experiences sexually, you know, just, you know, in your life in general, because I just got a really weird moment. I don't know what happened there, pile number 3. It's like I got a weird moment of fear. Okay, and perhaps some of you have dealt with that with the Tower, okay? You know, but I do think you have the ability to have this beautiful, amazing sexual experience. It's very healing for you. And I don't know that you necessarily need a partner for that right now, okay? It's not like you have to have one for that. And actually a partner may just get in the way of that. But I also think, you know, it has to be the real deal if it's going to be that. And you have to really be able to trust that person, okay? And be able to be completely open with them without worrying about them stabbing you in the back, okay? So pile number 3, I'm going to go ahead and ask, what is the number one thing that pile number 3 should be focused on right now? What is the number one thing that pile number 3 should be? Oh, family is on the bottom of the deck. So perhaps the 10 of Pentacles is very much about creating that safe environment. And perhaps some of you did not grow up in a very safe environment, you know, just growing up wise. And that can make us want, you know, to have that safe environment even more, okay? But that's on the bottom of the deck. We have friendship here. Friendship. And look at these women. They're all like, you know, of course the full moon. They're all like, you know, doing witchy shit together, dancing in the forest. You know, friendship is very healing and very uplifting, and it's very wonderful, you know. And I also feel some people in this pile could also not be into men right now, or just not into men in general. But anyway, I just have to say, I feel like, you know, friendship, connection, uplifting energy, like, you know, the sisterhood all around the campfire together, telling your stories, lifting each other up, you know, rituals to Gaia, like all of these things are incredibly beautiful for you right now, pile number 3. All these like witchy, Gaia, friendship, you know, holding hands in a circle. I think I've done the kumbaya several times for my pile number 3s. But anyway, I just want to say there is something very good for you in that energy, and trying to force something that has been like rubbing you raw in the past and like chafing you unnecessarily, I feel is not something that we need to keep, you know, going down that path. What we really need is a supportive, you know, social network that is there for us and has our back and build that up first. And I think a lot of people sometimes, you know, in this modern world, everyone's lonely a lot of the time. It's very hard. And it can be really hard to build friendships. And a lot of people go straight into relationships very quickly, you know, Empress Tower, because they're lonely or because they want that connection. But I really do think it helps to build up those friendships right now. Pile number 3. That may be the main thing, that the loving support network may be the main thing that you guys need to focus on right now. Okay, thank you so much, pile number 3. I hope that you enjoyed your reading, my lovelies. I certainly enjoyed giving you that reading. And take care, my darlings.